Good afternoon and welcome to China for the latest round of the IFSC Speed World Cups. I'm Charlie Bosco, delighted to say I've got Josh Levin alongside me and we're live from Wujiang. Sitting 100 kilometers west of Shanghai in the east of China, Wujiang is one of the 5 urban districts of the Suzhou part of the Jiangsu province. The most popular site for visitors is the peaceful and traditional Lily Village, which many of the IFSC athletes visited yesterday in order to see a more historical part of this ever more modern country. The village has a history dating back over 2,500 years, and parts of it were recently renovated to accommodate the increased number of visitors which the town welcomes these days. Our venue is somehow nestled into a small park beneath towering skyscrapers and next to the Sanbaidang Lake in the southeast part of modern-day Wujiang. The lake, combined with the bustle of a city, make the location fairly unique, and the relative peace in the area minimises the culture shock for most of the climbers after their trip from Europe. And I'm pleased to report that the sun is still shining here in Wujiang. It is a beautiful afternoon and slightly cooler than it was for the lead semi-finals this morning, which is a big relief for both us and the athletes. And Josh, you were climbing on the speed wall here the other day. It has been certified for world records. It's an amazing setting to climb this Wujiang Lake.
Absolutely, yeah. This place in front of the lake is really picturesque. We have the city view on this side and the lake on this side, and it's been really an incredible experience as athletes here.
And we've got 16 climbers in the men, 16 in the women as ever for a speed final. It's going to be action-packed, and just to let you know, it's getting slightly complicated with the rankings, of course, because there's more than 6 World Cups. One of the scores will be dropped, but the outcome of the overall title, in the men's competition can be decided today. We'll explore that more as time goes by. But Josh, we've seen some very fast times here, but we don't have Reza Ali Pasha in his Zandifar. He was denied his visa. Despite that, do you think we can see another world record? I'm going to put you on the spot because you've seen a lot this year.
It'll be tricky today. On the speed wall last night, we noticed that there's a lot of slipperiness on the wall. It's not quite as gritty as some of the other walls this season we've seen so far. So I think today for a speed world record, we're going to have some really fast races, people really pushing each other in order to get to that time where we're going to be seeing the world record being broken. It is possible. I don't want to say it's not possible, but I think here it'd be a little bit less likely to see it than other places.
And talk us through what you mean exactly about the wall. I mean, we're talking about the fine texture of the wall.
Yeah, so with the texture, it's been standardized across the whole world for every single Speed World Cup wall to have the exact same texture. We think as athletes when trying it out last night that it may have been adhered a little bit differently, or maybe the temperature, it being more humid here, could play into that, and how the friction becomes a dependent between your shoe and the wall. And with the athletes having such different variety of beta using the wall in different ways, we've seen a lot of people slipping more so at this competition versus other ones.
Do you think that there's potential for people to slightly change their beta, or is that not really something that's possible for the climbers?
I don't think it'll happen too much today. I think people will stick to their beta, but we'll see you tonight.
It'll be interesting to see whether anyone does. I mean, as a speed climber, will you have a method A and a method B and they're quite close? Or do you generally have, like, this is my only method?
I think as a speed climber, especially at this caliber, you generally have one method that you've been training for all year round, and you will definitely stick to it. If it comes to the case where there's an obvious malfunction in the wall, then maybe you have to change your beta, but we haven't seen that so far today. Everything seems to be according to plan. The only difference is that it's slightly more slippery, so people will just have that in the back of their minds moving through the rounds.
There you can see our venue here in Wujiang, as I say, slightly cooler than it has been. Very relieved to report that. But still warm, still humid, not ideal conditions. But you just never know, the world records have been tumbling this year. And a decent crowd building up here in Wujiang. The crowd is vastly bigger than it was last year, as well as those people you can see there. There's people also out on the streets. They seem to have limited the number in the venue. And it is a truly unique venue here on the edge of Sanbaidang Lake, with the city behind and the lake in front. Stunning place for a World Cup. As I say, lovely warm conditions for us, but perhaps slightly too humid for our climbers' liking. 16 men and 16 women as ever, and we're on a slightly different time schedule. The World Cup will run by exactly the same format as we're used to, but we've been told there will be slightly longer breaks between the races. The reason for that being that this is actually being broadcast on local TV, and we are not controlling the pitches that you see. we get given what we get given, and they've asked that the broadcast last a certain amount of time, and that will require that there be the odd break between races, which is good for us because we have an expert in the booth who can give us some analysis. Normally in the Speed World Cup we fire through the races one after another, but this time we've got a little more time on our hands. They're getting them started young here in China. See there the French coaching team. They'll be keeping an eye out on Anouk Jobert amongst others. She was so close to winning the overall title in 2016. Couldn't quite get over the line. You might remember her heartbreak in Xiamen last year. We'll be back there in a week's time. You see the athletes just being made to wait a bit. We are actually past 4 o'clock, which is the official start time. And there is the route.
So right now, as we're looking at the wall, you can see definite amount of places where the rubber from the climber's shoes is pasted on the wall. And as you move the wall, you'll see areas where people will use their smearing ability more than others. If you can take a look in quite about the middle of your screen, you'll see an area where people will be smearing a lot around, and especially over all of the footholds. So that amount of wall surface where people generally step on, the texture on the wall generally tends to fade away much quicker on those areas, and I think the way that the paint is applied and the texture is applied to the wall will deteriorate at different rates depending on the method at which it is applied. So that's what, when the athletes say, oh, it's slippery on this wall, they mean exactly how the paint was applied and exactly how it dried or the texture to the surface. We'll see it progress through the rounds.
This is the minutiae of speed climbing. It's unbelievable how this can affect times. And psychology, it should be added. Big element these days with the no false start rules. We have seen a surprising number of false starts. Edinburgh was quite a broken World Cup due to the number of false starts. Anyway, we are underway. Elena Timofeeva, there she is. She's on the right as we look at the wall. Eri Susanti Rahayu of Indonesia, who are well represented in speed climbing, on the left. And as I've said, the World Cup will feel, I hope, slightly slower than a normal Speed World Cup. Action will be just as fast. We will have longer breaks in between races. So it's Rahayu on the left, and it looked like a false start from her at the time. When you can see it with the naked eye, it doesn't bode well. I'm absolutely certain that was Rahayu. It was by quite a long way. I was just talking about the false starts, and there we see one.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. And she was actually the #1 ranked climber coming into this event in the final. And the fact that she is now out, that means that Timofeeva has probably the best seed going forward throughout the rounds. She was in the 16th place spot, and now, well, we'll have to see what the final result is, but
not quite sure why she's... no doubting what's happened. Timofeeva's not sure either. An unusual start to speed climbing final.
Yeah, I can't say I've seen this happen before. We'll figure out in the next couple of minutes.
I mean, I'm absolutely certain it was Rahayu who false started. She was almost a full move ahead.
Yeah, well, on the screen it says both of their athletes have false started. I'm not sure if that's actually the case. I guess we'll find out in a second. They might have to rerun, or neither of them will go through.
Okay, well, we will find out for you. We'll grab an official. And that looked like a rerun to me, so presumably a false start from both.
Just a quick thing to keep a heads up on. The left, the reason why the Indonesian athlete is on the left side of the wall is she's actually ranked higher. So whenever you see a race, generally the person, actually all the time, the person who has the higher rank from qualifications will be on the left side, and the person who has the lower rank will be on the right. So if the person on the right ends up pulling out a victory, that will be considered an upset in the system.
A glitch in the matrix.
Exactly.
Anna Brozek there, closest to the camera. There's Aurelia Saracen of France. Ready to go. We will resolve the issue with the first race. My conclusion is it was a false start for both.
That's what it said in the live stream, so we'll find out.
We'll find out in the meantime, let's hope we can get a clean run here. Anna Burrows and Aurelia Saracen. And it was a quick start for Saracen. It looked almost like a false start, but it wasn't quite, and she's held on to that small lead she earned herself early on. If she keeps it clean, she should take this, and does. 8:36.
Yeah, nice clean run from both of them. Looked like Saracen had a little more power throughout the run, was able to take the victory.
Let's have another look at it. I didn't see any slips from either climber, really.
And as they're watching this replay, you can really see how streamlined Saracen has been climbing. If you look at their competitor, you can see their hips would actually go from side to side a little bit more. The ideal speed climbing run, you're just going in a straight fluid line, and you can actually like, trace their progress of their hips, which is the center of gravity, within a straight line. So you see some of the male competitors and female competitors later. The ideal position of your hips is just going absolutely 100% straight up.
It's all about efficiency of movement.
Absolutely. Much more so with any other discipline in climbing.
So you're trying to avoid a lateral movement because that's energy that isn't taking you towards the top of the wall.
Correct, yeah. You want to have absolutely 100% of your momentum going vertically up, which is the fastest way you can get to the top of the wall.
Interesting aside, actually, as we watch Anna Tiganova and Yilong Song get ready, I saw an analysis of Usain Bolt's sprinting style, and he has lateral movement as he starts. And they were basically saying he could go a lot faster if he could sort that lateral movement out.
Yeah, I think with him there's a lot of commentary about how much of a slow start that he has compared to other sprinters.
Yeah.
But the fact that he can make it up throughout the course of the run is definitely interesting.
Well, of course, he has that luxury, but it's interesting, yeah, that lateral movement. He pushes his knee across to the other side, across towards his other leg, and it's all, again, movement that could be pushing him forward. Interesting stuff. So, Anna Tiganova against this woman here, Yilong Song. Anna Tiganova, she was also competing in the lead, albeit didn't quite make the semi-final. We've seen her in bouldering competitions too, but this is her main discipline, and she's away to a good start. So is Yilong Song though. Tiganova's got a small lead, needs to keep it clean, and does, and takes it in 8:40.
Yeah, nice clean run from both athletes. Looked like Yilong Song had a little bit of a stall out, about 2/3 of the way up. And Anna Tiganova was able to capitalize that on and take it clear to the top of the wall for the victory. Right there.
Yeah, nice clean run. Didn't need to push it too hard. 8:40. 10:39.
And it's really cool seeing the mix of countries we have here in this final today too. We have representation from the common countries we've seen so far this season, like Russia, Poland, France, China. But here in China, we actually have a huge representation from the Indonesian team, which is different than a lot of other World Cups we've seen so far this year. And it's really exciting to see new countries come out with a lot of really strong athletes. So we'll see how that plays out throughout the course of this competition.
Yeah, they've got 3 women in this round of 16, Indonesia.
Yeah.
Their team's been very visible at the hotel. The IFSC hotel. It's a big team. It's really good to see, as you say, nations coming through. So Anouk Jobert, Victoire Andrier, France. Jobert, as with last year, locked in a very tight battle with Yulia Kaplina for the overall title.
Last weekend, or sorry, excuse me, 2 weekends ago, we saw Anouk take the victory in Edinburgh. So that was a really good result for her, and I'm sure she has a lot of confidence coming out of that competition.
So it's Jobert on the left, the clear favourite here against the compatriot Victoire Andrier. As ever with Jobert, just sits herself before she goes, rocks back, fires up the first holes, and this is a nice clean run. You can tell she's not quite at full tilt, but 8.06. More than enough to see her through. 8.96 from Andrier.
Yeah, in these opening rounds, we won't see that many really quick times out of the athletes usually. It sometimes comes in the second or third round. So I don't think we'll see any world record breaking runs in this first round of 16, but it'll definitely be interesting to see how that moves forward throughout the competition.
It was a relatively straightforward start for Jobert. She's through. Can she make it 4 in a row? 1 in Edinburgh, of course. Just a couple of weeks ago. Hard to believe that Ratho is on the same planet as Wujiang.
Feels like a different planet at this point.
Yeah, it was was cool, it was moody. And here we are under the baking hot sun of Eastern China. So Yulia Koplina, the reigning World Cup champion, takes on Xulian He. Again, Koplina, strong favourite here. But the Chinese have been going well. He recording some good times in practice and qualifying yesterday.
Both these athletes are amazing. Koplina's been at the top of the world rankings for many years, and Kulan has definitely had some good results as well.
And she got a slightly better start, Hey, and she's more than keeping Koplina honest, but I think Koplina's got a bit of a lead. She does. A stumble from Hey means that Koplina can take it in 8.08, 10.93 for Hey. Just a replay.
Yeah, right around after the dyno is right where she slips up a tiny bit. Right there.
Just placing that right foot.
Yeah, it was close. Actually, it was her left hand that slips out of the hold there. So, good sportsmanship there, though, for both athletes.
Just coming back quickly to the double false start, what we think was a double false start in the first race. It was very confusing. Even the athletes didn't seem to know what was going on. Elena Timofeeva and Eri Susanti Rahayu of Indonesia. The rule in the IFSC is that if both competitors make a false start, the competitor with the lowest reaction time will be eliminated, i.e. the first competitor to make a false start. And if both competitors have the same reaction time, both shall be eliminated. Now, on the results as they come in live, Timofeeva is shown as having a false start, and Rahayu is showing a time of 99 seconds, which presumably is just a number given to her by the judges, which would suggest that despite her seemingly visibly false starting, she is through because they both false started, but she false started after Timofeeva. Certainly a confusing one to get us started. As I say, we'll try and get the official line for you. In the meantime, Maria Krasavina on the left there, Puji Lestari of Indonesia on the right. Quick start from Krasavina. She's opened up a lead, but not a big one. She's going to have to work here. Keep it clean, keep it neat. She does just that and takes it in 8.55.
That was a close one, though. They both had a minor slip up at the very top, and if either one of them had kept perfect, then they would have won. I think we'll see just at the very end how close it really was. Really even right about to here, and then we had one slip on both sides.
Yeah, heel just dropped, right foot just dropped underneath.
Yeah, Krasavina remaining solid.
So she's through.
Krasavina had a really good result in Edinburgh as well. She was she was silver medalist, is that correct? Bronze?
She was certainly top 4.
Yep.
There's the, as I say, our extraordinary venue here. Yes, second it was in...
silver medalist.
Yes, in Edinburgh. Claudia Bukcek, Sansi Walianti.
Another one of our Indonesian athletes coming through in the final.
Yeah, third of 3 in this women's round of 16.
I was speaking with Claudia earlier this afternoon before the competition, and she's another one of those athletes that is also considering trying other disciplines for the Olympic race in a couple years. So she's interested in starting to do some more bouldering in addition to her speed climbing.
Poland, another strong nation. Both athletes set themselves. It's Welianti who got the much better start. Bukcek's got work to do to catch her up here. They're about level at mid-height. This one is going to be tight, and I think Welianti might take it. She will, 8.89.
Very good race from both those athletes.
I've just been told that it was a double false start in that very first race, and Eri Susanti Rahayu will progress. It was a double false start, but hers was the smaller of the 2 false starts. I have to say, I actually flagged it with the naked eye with the false start, which I have to say most of the false starts are so small you can't actually pick them up till you see the replay. So extraordinary starts to the competition. I'm not quite sure anyone knew what was going on, but it's been confirmed that she will progress. It was also a start from Elena Timofeeva. I do feel slightly for Timofeeva there because it was such a big movement from Aries Waheu. It might not have officially been a false start. She might not have left the timing pad. Maybe Timofeeva moved off her timing pad to officially register the false start, but it was a big move, and she must have reacted to that. Anyway, then it's the rules.
She certainly telegraphed her movement much more than the Indonesian athlete did.
So, final race, in this round of 16, Ala Marenic, Elizaveta Ivanova of Russia. Quick start from Marenic. Opened up a decent lead, but she's been reined in already. This one's going to be tight again. Both athletes climbing well, and it's 8:45 from Ivanova that takes it. Ala Marenic out in the round of 16. Let's have another look.
Marenic definitely had the faster start, but Ivanova just had a much cleaner run overall, and you can see it just by the end, caught up to her.
23 hundredths of a second in it. And that is 8 women through out of 16, and we await the men. There is our venue. If you watched our lead semi-final earlier, the men were climbing on the far left of the wall, and the women were climbing up that central blue streak just to the left of the Chinese characters. And if you come to IFSC events, there'll be a few familiar faces in there, as well as our crowd. Interesting to see in China, actually. We seem to get larger crowds this year than we did last year. They still don't quite know what to make of it, it would seem. But they seem to enjoy watching it.
Yeah, here's one of the replays of the races we had so far, and definitely good to see a good mix of turnout in the round of 8 now. We actually have 2 Indonesian athletes going through to the round of 8 out of the 8 athletes, which is definitely different than the other Speed World Cups we've seen so far this year. So good mix of all different countries. We'll have to check and see whether athletes are making it through, and we'll look forward to seeing the men's round of 16.
Yeah, no Jan Hoyer this time in the round of 16, if you saw him going in Edinburgh. Most of the better known speed climbers safely through, but no Reza Ali Porsche Nazandifar, as I mentioned earlier. He was having visa issues, I'm told, wasn't able to come into China.
Yeah, Reza missed the last World Cup in Edinburgh too, I believe, for visa issues. So definitely sad to see him miss a couple World Cups this year, but we're looking forward to seeing him back in the next one.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's the nature of the world. Everyone has to get a visa, but still really disappointing when we're denied the sight of Reza at full tilt. And another Indonesian climber, Pengaran Subarian.
So yeah, the first round here we have first-ranked Aspar Jololo and Pengaran on the right. Should be a really good race for both of them. They have a really strong team coming out of Indonesia this year.
Indonesia against Indonesia. Jayolo on the left, Saburian on the right. Jayolo's got the blistering speed through the middle section, 6.36 and 7.03 on the right. Fast times straight out of the block.
Yeah, as you watch the replay here, you can see the differences in beta right off the blocks. We saw Jayolo take the more conventional go out all the way to the third hole on the left, whereas his competitor actually tried to go straight up. It's a technique that was actually pioneered by Reza Ali Porshena earlier this year. I'm not sure if he's the first one to do it, but he's definitely the one to make it famous, I suppose. But yeah, the technique you'll see a lot of the men doing today is actually going straight from that second hold after the starting holds and going straight up to the fourth hold and skipping the third hold entirely. So we'll see lots of differences in men's beta today. We'll see quite a few differences down low and up high as well.
Alexander Shilov there on the left, Leonardo Jontera on the right.
Not to be confused with Alexander Shikov, different competitor.
Yes. The Russian names are easy to pronounce, but often not that different.
Leonardo coming off of a really good result in Edinburgh. He placed third, got the bronze medal there, his first IFSC medal in a couple years, I believe. So he's definitely had a lot of confidence coming into this event as well.
He's a climber I really enjoy watching, actually. Big guy. He's not super tall, but he's such a big, thick, heavy guy. He's got such a powerful style.
Yeah, and I imagine we'll see some differences in beta in this race, especially with Shilov being the taller athlete.
And it was a quick start from Jontera, but a legal one. And Shilov is going to have to work hard to win this, but he is looking in superb form. He takes it 6.43. He's through.
Yeah, Leonardo is really good off the blocks in all his races. Watch here. He had clearly a good start. And right through here, you'll see a quite difference in beta, where Shilov used a one hand on the dyno and Leonardo used two. But definitely a really good race from both of them. Not close to their personal best times, I don't think, but fast enough to get Shilov through the next round.
Yeah, clean run from both, 6.43 and 6.53. Perhaps we're expecting slightly faster.
Even yesterday in qualification, I think a lot of the athletes, after they did some of their runs, you saw them kind of shaking their heads a little bit, knowing that they could have gone faster. But I think with the conditions of this wall and the humidity here, you're not going to see quite as fast as we've seen earlier this season.
Stanislav Kokorin and Dmitry Timofeev out. All Russia.
This is going to be a really good race. Kokorin came off of the World Cup second place, and he's one of the best athletes out there, and Timofeev certainly is up there with him as well. I actually got to race Kokorin in the first round in Edinburgh last 2 weekends ago, so great guy. Really enjoyed talking with him, and I got to race Timofeev last night in the qualification round also. So both these guys, really awesome athletes. We'll see him put it all here today.
Yeah, both won the World Cups in China in 2016. Can they repeat that this year? Kokorin just moving around slightly on the timing pad, but they both get away cleanly. It looks to me as if Timofeev's got a small lead, and he takes it in 6.32. He had to work for that one.
Yeah, it was a really close race. You see in the replay, they both get away quickly. Kokorin bobbled it right at the third hold, so he'll be kicking himself for that, but he had a really good run. So did Timofeev. Both looked really clean on the upper 5 through 10 meters. Just came down to that one small mistake.
He knew it. As ever, nice sportsmanship. Then we'll talk about overall rankings and overall points in just a second. Vladislav Dulin currently leading the way in the overall standings, and the fact that Stanislav Kokorin will not progress further will be good news for him. But as I say, we'll get bogged down in the math slightly later on. Sabri of Indonesia, Konstantin Pavlenko of Ukraine on the right. Pavlenko will run on the right as we look at the wall.
Sabri, another one of those athletes you want to look out for. He's capable of going times close to or even under the world record in practice, so doing it in this competition would be really impressive to see from him. We'll see how it goes today.
So both athletes clipped in. We're using auto belays everywhere we go this year. No more belays desperately trying to take in the slack. Auto belays all the way. Both climbers clipped in. Sabri on the left. Pavlenko on the right. Sabri just rocked back before he launched, and this is a quick run from both men. No big mistakes yet, but it's Sabri who takes it 6.26. Such a close run. 200ths in it.
Very close race. You see just how close we get at the top, but you see they both skipped the third hold out there and both had same one-handed dyno beta through here. Slightly different in the top 5, but you'll see Sabri just really power his way through and take it. You can see he's definitely happy with that one.
Pavlenko not quite so over the moon, but still smiles and a nice handshake as ever.
You can tell he knows he had a really good run. Not much more he could have done. Just right there, you saw him be like, all right, well, gave it the best I had. And that's, as an athlete, the best you can feel. Gave it the best you could. If you win or not, kind of doesn't matter, but we'll definitely get to see him be back in the next World Cup.
Yeah, it's only a week until we're in Xiamen. And if the athletes think it's warm in Wujiang, just wait till we go to Xiamen. It's a hot place, Xiamen. An hour and a half flight further south of here. Very humid, surrounded by the sea. The whole city isn't on an island, but the bulk of the city is on a big island in the middle of the South China Sea. And it is hot and it's humid. So Marcin Zienski, closest to the camera, left-hand side of the wall as we look at it. Sufrianto Rindi of Indonesia on the right.
Yeah, Zienski had a really big year last year. Let's see if he can back that up at this competition.
He's not quite re-found that form, and he got a slightly sluggish start there. Rindi flew out the blocks, but I think Zienski's pure speed will take it. No, it will not. 6.24. Rindi through.
Yeah, that's another Indonesian athlete we're seeing through the top 8. So really good results from their team so far.
I really thought, I mean, Zienski was a bit slow out the blocks, but he looked to me as if he was just gaining, but never quite.
Yeah, Rindi was just ahead the whole way, and he never relinquished that lead.
Never
really
quite got it back.
You can tell he's really happy about that.
Yeah, Marcin Zienski, the man to beat in 2016, has not quite rediscovered that form this year, and he's out in the round of 16 here in Wujiang.
You can see the Indonesian team is pretty excited about the results so far.
Yeah, well, he's the third Indonesian man through to the round of 8 already. That man there, Vladislav Dolin, he can actually sew up the overall title, the World Cup title for 2017, provided he's first or second and other climbers do their bit by not getting sufficient ranking points. We will discuss more later, but he could win it today, the overall title.
So on our left, we have Jinjin Li. He's a very young Chinese athlete. I think he's only 16 or 17 years old, but already proving to be one of the fastest in the world. So really excited to see him come up.
He's got a handful here, though. Vladislav Dolin, already a multiple World Cup winner, and leading the standings in the overall. And Dolin will actually have a relatively steady cruise to victory due to a big slip there in the middle of the route. 6:09.
Yeah, you can tell the crowd is really behind Li. He's definitely one of the hometown favorites, being so young and from China. But Dolin is just so good. He was able to take it in this race.
Yeah, it's just a big slip with that right foot, costs him. Just tuning in, Charlie Roscoe and Josh Levin here, watching the speed climbing on the shores of Lake Saibadang in Wujiang. Beautiful evening here. We've been blessed with very good weather. We're well aware that thunderstorms are not out of the question in China. Not even a sniff of one here. Wonderful weather throughout. Wonderful venue for a competition. So, Ludovico Fossali taking on Xizin Song, China. We didn't see him much in 2016. He had a baby daughter and took a bit of time out of competing, but he was back in the World Championships in Paris, and he's been at the World Cups this year, albeit without the success we've seen from him in the past. Still more than capable on his day, though. Ludovico Fossali had something of a breakthrough season, won in Edinburgh.
Third in Arco, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So he's had 2 podiums in a row. Can he make it 3? Well, first things first, you've got to beat a legend of the game, Xizin Song.
I'm looking forward to this race, specifically Ludovico being the World Cup champion from Edinburgh, and Zong just being the absolute hometown favorite here. It's gonna be a really good race for the crowd.
Fossali on the left, much taller than Song, who's on the right. Will that affect their beta? Will that affect their speed? Well, it isn't affecting their speed as it stands. They're both flying, and it's Song who takes it, 6.04. He was blistering the top half of the route.
You can tell the crowd is really excited about that one.
He absolutely flew up the last bit.
You can see the differences in beta almost immediately, Zhang being the shorter athlete, but he's just so much more explosive and really wanted it today, as you can see. Very excited about that result. He's somewhat of a national hero here in China. There's TV commercials with him in it. He's basically known all around the country for his speed climbing exploits.
We mentioned it during the lead semi-final, China pumping vast amounts of money into all sports, including climbing. He's probably, I think you could say, their first climbing superstar.
Absolutely.
I suspect he won't be the last. Alexander Shikov out next. Xiong Wu of China racing, who will be on the right as we look at the wall. There we see it. Shikov makes his way over to the left. So a lot of surprise results already so far. Martin Zienski is out. Ludovico Fasali is out. The door is being opened for Vladislav Dolin to claim the overall title for the year.
See Shikov here being totally in the zone. He's ready to take on this race. He's also wearing two different colored shoes, which I find interesting.
Yeah, very fetching. It'd be interesting to ask him what the reason for that was. Both got a clean start. Shikov's got some real speed through the middle, and he's opened up a metre or so lead, which he will hold on to. 6.12 sees him through.
Yeah, very clean race from both athletes. I think Shikov had a quicker start off the blocks and is able to just power through. Yeah, you can see slightly different beta from both of them again, but Shikov just had a little bit better pace throughout the route.
Just over 6.5 for Wu. Yeah, if you're just tuning in, we're taking our pictures today from Chinese television, so if you're wondering why the climbers are being asked to look down the camera and give a little wave, that's why. We will endeavour to get replays when we can, and as I say, we're just taking the pictures we get given. And there is our venue, and these are replays from earlier on. This is all Indonesia.
Yeah, a couple of really quick races so far. Seen some times in the low sixes. Haven't seen any 5-second times from the men yet today, but I'm sure we will with those later rounds.
Yeah, if you are just tuning in, these are replays. Dimitri Timofeev should do a bit more TV work. He's a natural. Stanislav Gokor in there as well. This is a replay of, it would seem, every race of the men's 16. That was Martin Zienski out much earlier than he would have liked or expected to be out.
And this is the race people will be talking about for the next round. Zhang and Ludovico. Zhang just taking it there with a time of 6:04. One of the fastest of the round we've seen so far.
Yep, fastest time of the day, that 6:04. Only one other climber under 6.1, that's Vladislav Dolin, 6.09. And that haircut there with the purple shades is quite extraordinary. As I say, we didn't get much of a crowd last year in Wujiang, but they've turned out in force today, and it's good to see.
And you can't tell right from looking at the picture, but it's actually pretty cool out right now. It hasn't been as hot as it was earlier this morning for the lead semi-final. It's a nice temperature. I think the athletes are probably appreciating that for the friction on the wall, as we've seen last night and this morning. We saw a fair amount of slips from athletes in both lead and speed, and so far today there's been slightly less of that. I think it's just about normal for a Speed World Cup, but yeah, I think the temperatures have been cool enough and the air quality is actually good enough today where we're not seeing quite as many slips from the athletes.
So what we'll have now is our round of 8. It'll be the women first, followed by the men. So the 8 women that qualified from the previous round go through and race for place in the semi-finals, the final 4. And here is the first of the 2 of them. So it's Aries Raheu, who Actually, false started, but didn't false start as badly as Elena Timofeeva. Bit of a strange one against Aurelia Saracen.
Yeah, right now we have our #1 ranked athlete from qualifiers versus our #9 ranked athlete from qualifiers. So the Aries Arai, who has a little bit of an advantage as being a higher ranked, but again, anything can happen in the speed wall.
Both athletes setting up, ready to go. Raheu gets her first real run on the speed wall in this competition after a false start in the previous round, and she's going pretty well so far and takes it in 8.08. She's through.
Yeah, great to see her have a nice clean run. She'll be through to the finals.
This race, of course, replaced in the last 4, and then those 4 raced, and we decided the small and the big finals, and then we have the small and the big finals. Anna Tsiganova will be up next, taking on Anouk Jobert. There they are, 2 familiar faces to regular viewers of speed climbing. Jobert locked in a very, very tight race for the overall title in 2017 against the woman that will race next, Yulia Kaplina. Jobert needs to get the job done here against a serious competitor in Anna Tsiganova.
Yeah, this will be a really good race here. We're seeing the #4 ranked competitor versus #5 ranked competitor, so it's going to be really tight. Both of them coming off really good seasons so far. Anik won the last World Cup in Edinburgh, and she's hoping to improve on that and have another medal this competition as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, won the last 3 IFSC World Cups. Anouk Jobert sets herself here. Second race to this women's round of 8, and both climbers start well, and both are climbing well. And Jobert, if she wants to progress, is going to have to work hard. And it is a dead heat, 7.81 for both climbers. This has happened 3 times this season.
Wow.
So there will be a rerun.
That was incredible. There were slight advantages to either athlete throughout the race. You can see right about here, Anouk looks like she's ahead, then Tsiganova looks like she's ahead, but then they pull out exactly the same at the top.
I have to say, I thought Tsiganova had that, but they are a dead heat, so they will run again. That's happened, as I say, 3 times this season.
Yeah, I think it actually came down to right at the buzzer. Can't see it from this angle, but the area where it actually registers a time is within the circle of yellow, as you can see at the very top of the wall. And Tsiganova, I believe, just to make sure she was hitting it correctly, went for the middle, whereas Jobert actually went for the very bottom of it. Both times still register, obviously, but if you can shorten the distance you have to go up to hit the buzzer, then that's faster time. So I think she was barely able to cut it down and make it a really close race and actually tie it up at the end.
Is that a calculation you think she might have made on board midway through the route?
It's possible, especially with it coming down to the very last moves, or either that or she knows how to do it in practice enough where she can feel comfortable going for the very bottom of the buzzer. But whatever the case is, she took definitely a slightly more of a risk going for the bottom instead of going for the middle.
So Yulia Kaplina here against Maria Krasavina. Russia against Russia. We say that often in speed climbing. Is she there? Just get called back down.
And as you can see them approach the wall, you'll see even these athletes at this high level have a different starting position too. You'll see Kaplin on the left only grab one of the holds, where Krasavina on the right grabs the second hold in the bottom.
So both away cleanly and both climbing well. Kaplina the favourite, but Krasavina more than keeping up, or she was until the slip until the middle of the route, means that Kaplina will take it. Still a fast time, 7.77. Sees her through.
Great result from Kaplina. I'm sure she's excited to be back in the final once again. Krasavina is looking strong, but slight slip right there meant she had to basically go all out in order to win the race.
Congratulations to Yulia. And thank you to Maria.
Great sportsmanship as always. So right now we're just checking the overall World Cup rankings for the season to see how it's going to play out, especially on the men's side.
Yeah, because Reza Ali Porshena is second in the overall rankings, but he hasn't come here to China. And Stanislav Kokorin and Ludovico Fasali are still in the race, but they've both been knocked out. So we think, we're trying to do the maths on the hoof, which never makes life easy, but we think that if Delin advances to the semi-finals, he wins, and if not, he might still win the overall title with a fast time to decide his ranking. But if he makes it to the last four, should be enough for the overall title.
And here we have another one of our Indonesian athletes coming out for the race. Should be a really good one, seeing her against Ivanova.
Yeah, this promises to be quite tight. Yulia Kaplina's already through. Aries Raheo's already through. Then line it up. Athletes ready to go. You hear the beeps. There's no randomised beeps now. They know exactly when to go. And Welianti had a small lead, but it's already been eaten into and removed by Ivanova, and she takes it in 8.35.
Yeah, nice clean run from both athletes. Ivanova just had a little more streamlined to her run. You can see she's pretty excited about going to the final. Talking about the hips earlier on in this commentary, you can see Welianti has a little bit more side-to-side movement, whereas their competitor was more of a straight line all the way up the wall.
So let's see when we have a rerun of the Jobert-Siganova. I suspect it might be now, actually. They haven't had that much rest. The climbers are used to doing back-to-back runs, albeit not in competition, but they will do during training, so it can be done. And of course it is the same for both climbers. Neither of them has an advantage or disadvantage, and yes, it looks like they are going to run it again. So this was a dead heat last time, 7.81. That means a rerun.
Yeah, both these athletes capable of winning the entire competition here, so this will be quite a pivotal moment.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, they're about to rematch. Let's welcome again, Luday.
Yeah, one of the differences for this season we've seen, in addition to the autoplay system, is again the system of random or standardized beeps leading up to when the go signal is, which has been definitely a difference in the past where you only have one beep. So when the third beep goes off, you know the athletes are counting it down in their minds, trying to calculate how soon they should go in order to not false start but get a good clean run.
Both climbers that technique of rocking back before they launch, and that's a massive stumble from Jobert. She's relying on one from Siganova, and she gets one. It's going to be another tight one. It's Jobert who takes it, 8.91. Not the cleanest race from either. Jobert was really reliant on Siganova slipping there, and she got her wish. You see it there. Siganova had a best part of a body length lead, and it was a big slip. Actually left a big chalk mark where her hands smeared down the wall, and Jobert took it. I have to say, Jobert got out of jail there.
Absolutely. That was a really interesting race from both athletes. There's two slips on either side. Definitely wasn't expecting to see that. They're both really consistent athletes in general, but I think Jobert's had a huge sigh of relief having to make it through first a rematch against someone else, and then also a slip up. So she got really lucky there.
Yeah, dead heat followed by a big slip. And yeah, you were just saying about the three beeps. I have to say, I was expecting that would not quite eliminate, but almost eliminate false starts, because you know when you got to go, and it feels to me as if we've made, someone should do the maths, it feels to me as if we've almost had more false starts this year.
Yeah, I think people are anticipating a little more, so you'll see people really try and cutting it as close as they possibly can. But of course, the registration of a false start isn't just going before the beep. I think it's, how much time is it?
It's 0.1 seconds.
Yeah, so 0.1 seconds. If you go after the beep, that's considered faster than human reaction time, and so that's also considered a false start. So you really can't go too quickly, but you also want to get a good start. So it's providing for some very interesting dynamic with the competition. All right, we have Jailolo on the left and Shilov on the right. Jailolo coming in as the #1 ranked speed climber from yesterday's qualification, and Shilov had also a very good race earlier today. Both really want a spot in this final, I'm sure, so we'll see how the race goes.
Yes, this is a race for the last 4, which will then decide the big and the small finals. Jailolo on the left, Shilov on the right, both quite tall climbers. You'd imagine will have similar beta, and both have similar speed, and both are absolutely blistering, but I think Jailolo's got the speed. He has 6.09. He's through. It's a big slip from Shilov, pretty much ended that one, but they were both absolutely flying, albeit with Jailolo, I think with a small lead pretty much throughout, and it was a big slip on the left foot from Shilov.
Yeah, great result for Jailolo. Shilov just had to come a little bit unlucky there, but you can tell the whole Indonesian team is really excited about this result. They had both their athletes from yesterday who were qualified first all the way through the final now, and now all that's left is for them to take one of the medals.
See the sun beginning to set here in Wujiang, temperature really plummeting. The lead climbers will be pleased about that. There'll be an action at 6:50 this evening. There's Dimitri Timofeev, Sabri of Indonesia, his opponent. Sabri will climb on the right as we look at the wall. Always tense this final few seconds before the climbers come out.
Both athletes registered blisteringly fast times in the qualification and first round, so should be a really close one between both of them. One interesting tidbit is you can see the Indonesian athletes actually don't tuck their shirts into their harness, which I think is different than some other countries. I don't know why, but maybe we'll ask them after the competition and see.
It's a minor point, but I noticed that. Seems like the last thing he'd want is your shirt flapping around. We'll see if it cost him. He just twitched there before he went, Sabri. But once he's underway, he's absolutely flying. Ditto Dimitri Timofeev. And it is Sabri who takes it, 6.08.
Wow, what a race. And this means that Indonesia will come away with this World Cup with a medal. Yeah, you can see really clean race from both of them. Sabri just had a little bit quicker start and faster throughout the rest of the route as well, by only 7/100ths of a second.
Interestingly enough, almost identical times. Aspar Jailolo 6.09, Sabri 6.08.
Yeah, great result from their team so far. Definitely interesting to see Sabri's start position. As we saw, he pulls away from the wall at the second beep, and that causes a little bit of delay, I would guess, in like getting ready, but it gives him a little more explosivity in order to go through. So we're seeing some replays of the women's round right now.
Yeah, these are replays if you're just watching. Now, Vladislav Dolin, whether or not he knows it, depends how much maths he did. I shouldn't imagine he thought about it too much, but if he wins this race and makes it into the final 4, I believe that seals the overall title for him for 2017. Could it be 3 Indonesian climbers through out of 3 so far, though, in the men's competition? Sufrianto Rindi, there he is, left-hand side. But Vladislav Dolin, as I say, can claim the overall title here for 2017. Everything has gone his way at this World Cup in Wujiang. Reza Ali Poshena wasn't able to make it due to visa issues. I'm sure nobody would wish that on him. But that's how it worked out. And Stanislav Kokorin and Ludovico Fasali already out. They were Dolin's rivals for the title. He's aiming for the top. He could be aiming for the title here. And he is flying, but so is Rindi. And Dolin is going to have to work hard if he wants this. And he slips. 6.23 sees Rindi through. And Vladislav Dolin misses the opportunity to seal the deal on the overall title.
You can see here Dolin had just a massive start all the way up into the last 2 holds of the route, last 3 holds of the route, and you can tell he's a little disappointed with that, I'm sure, but had a really good race, really good season so far from him, and he's still in the running for the overall World Cup title.
He's still the favourite for the overall World Cup title. He's had a better World Cup than any of his rivals, and he was leading in the overall standings anyway, so in a couple of days from now he might look back and think actually it's not been so bad, but right now he will be absolutely furious furious, and if he wasn't aware what was in stake in that race and he finds out later whether he bothers doing the maths, with hindsight, I don't know. I almost hope he doesn't.
Yeah, I'm sure Rindy, though, that was a massive race for him. He stood at a final with 2 other Indonesian athletes, so they're guaranteed at least 2 medals now, which is pretty incredible.
Yep. He's safely through. Supriyanti Rindy, good time, 6.24. Interestingly enough, no man under 6 yet today. We've had 6.09, 6.08 and 6.23 the times. And Rindy only 100th quicker than in his previous run. So without further ado, it's Alexander Shikov. We've already seen Shilov. This time Shikov sees in Song of China in action as well. Left-hand side, crowd right behind Song. Moving about on the time pad, wants to be careful. And he wants to be careful with his climbing too, because he's had a big slip that's cost him, and Shikov goes through, 6.29. Massive slip there, right early on from Shizin Song.
Yeah, well, Elliot Strong had a great first round. This one, he unfortunately had a couple of slips, but definitely acknowledges the crowd that were so supportive of him through the whole race. Shikov definitely excited to be back in his second final in a row.
There's a big slip, and another one there. Shizin Song, he's disappointed with that. As I said though,
so in the final today for the men's speed, we have 3 Indonesian athletes and Alexander Shikov from Russia.
Yeah, and an Indonesian climber in the women's as well, Aries Rahayu. So they've had a wonderful day.
Women's speed final, we have Indonesia, France, and 2 Russian athletes.
Yulia Kaplina and Anouk Jobert, they always just seem to find their way into it.
It's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out in today's final. With a lot of Indonesian representation, same we've seen in the past several years and seasons. It's been a lot of Russia domination, of course, a lot of Eastern European countries, Poland, France. China has come a long way, of course, but this competition specifically, Indonesia just had an absolutely full force day. Many athletes winning multiple rounds of competition, and now we have 4 athletes across men's and women's finals competing for medals here. So really exciting to see them doing so well. I actually got the chance to speak to the Indonesian speed climbing coach earlier. He was talking about the methods of training and support they have. And with Indonesia being such a vast country, it's surprising to see them all come together and have such a strong team. But really excited to see them here and performing at such a high level here.
So the athletes will now be presented again to the crowd before we see the semi-finals. The winner of the semi-finals go through to the big final to decide first and second place, and the runners-up in the semi-finals will go through to the small final to decide third and fourth.
Yeah, you can see the Indonesian athletes talking to each other there. They're all really excited just to be in this moment. They've been training for it all year. One of their big competitions coming up next year is the Asian Games, I believe, and that's what they put a lot of time, resources, energy training for. I think they have, according to the coach, over 100 speed walls across Indonesia, and so the access to speed climbing is becoming much easier for athletes across the world, actually, which is really great to see. The barriers to entry for entering a sport is specifically hard with speed climbing, having to need the official wall to train on. And so seeing it being more accessible in more countries around the world is definitely exciting, especially with the Olympics coming up. It's our first Indonesian athlete. She's going to be racing Anouk Jobert here in the first race. You can see she's very used to being in this light.
There's Anouk Jobert. Can she make it 4 in a row? She won here in Wujiang last year. Yulia Kaplina, massively consistent. And Elizaveta Ivanova.
Another one of Indonesian athletes.
Yeah, what an extraordinary day they've had. I think they knew they had some fast climbers, but I think if you'd said to them you can have 4 climbers out of 8 into the finals, they'd have bitten your hands off.
Definitely excited to see them out here.
We have the competitor come from Russia. Let's welcome Alexander. Welcome.
Alexander Shikov of Russia out. So the athletes, as I say, get presented for a second time to the crowd. And then disappear back in, and it'll be the women's semi-final first.
As you can see here, Indonesia and Russia coming through in spades. And of course we have Anak Joubert rounding out the field.
Sun right behind the wall now, just cooking the back of it. Still feels warm, still feels humid. No doubt conditions improving. There's the speed wall on the right hand side of the complex here in Wujiang. It's a stunning view from the top of the wall, I've got to say. Looking out across the lake, wonderful. No guardrail though, which does make things slightly nerve-wracking. You've got to be really careful when you're walking around up there. And the metal does flex a little bit, so it can be slightly nerve-wracking walking around the top of the wall, but if you find something to clip into, then you can enjoy the view.
One cool thing again about this broadcast specifically is that it is being broadcast live on Chinese television for this competition, and I'm really excited to see it being viewed as much more of a serious sport across the world. It definitely adds more legitimacy to it, especially heading into the Olympics in a couple years. And seeing the athletes as much more than just climbers. They're athletes representing their entire country, and their country looks up to them as such. So seeing them come out and really put on a good show for us is so much bigger for our sport, and it definitely adds a lot more legitimacy to what we're doing.
It's interesting actually, in Edinburgh I was chatting to some of the people who are more involved with mainstream sports, if you like, and they were saying that they think speed climbing will be the discipline of climbing that the public enjoys the most at the Olympics.
Yeah, it'll be definitely interesting to see. I was actually at one of the demonstration events we had for climbing in 2014 in Nanjing in China a couple years ago, and we performed all 3 disciplines as a demonstration event, and it was definitely interesting to see which discipline people kind of attach themselves to. Speed climbing was definitely one of them, bouldering also being exciting, but lead climbing surprisingly was a much more dramatic event than we expected. But we're here today for speed, so this is for the spot in the big final.
Yes, ignore that graphic. Aries Raheu on the left and Joubert on the right, and they're both climbing well, but a big slip from Aries Raheu. Hands it to Joubert. 7.92, didn't need to work that hard. No doubt she saw that quite early on. 9.23 still from Raheu.
Is that the first 7-second time we've seen? No, sorry. We had a couple other ones.
Yeah, we had a 7.77 from Yulia Kaplina. I'm just looking down my list. Yeah, 7.77, the fastest so far, but Joubert dips under 7.29, under 8, excuse me, yeah, with a 7.92.
Straightforward run for Joubert. She always finds the way to make it back into the big final, so excited to see her back again.
It just feels like for the last 2 years it's been her and Kaplina week in, week out battling. It's a big rivalry. Kaplina's got to do her bit now though and make it through to the final, the big final that is. Take on her compatriot Elizaveta Ivanova. Ivanova will climb on the right, Kaplina will climb on the left. Both are pretty focused, being made to wait slightly longer than normal. As I say, we're live on Chinese television, so they're calling the shots and telling the athletes how long everything should take. Now they're called.
See them placing the starting pads exactly where they know where to place it. A lot of the athletes have actually figured out which line of bolts that they want it to be at, so that way they can place it exactly where they want it before they even know where their foot's going to be placed.
So they'll count the number of bolt holes in.
Exactly.
Such is the level of detail. So it's Kaplina on the left, Ivanova on the right. Looked like a quick start from Ivanova, but it was clearly legal. No false start flag, but Kaplina's more than regained the lead and takes it in 7.86, and didn't look, I have to say, as if she was working especially hard for it. She goes through to the big final.
As you can see here, yeah, very clean run from both athletes. Kaplina just did what she does best. Had a really nice clean run, under 8 seconds. And she's back to the big final once again against Anouk Joubert.
It's one of the big climbing rivalries, actually, Joubert and Kaplina. It just seems to be week in, week out. Joubert won't get much closer to fluffing her lines than she did this week. Had a dead heat with Anna Tikhonova, then a really messy run in the rerun, but got there in the end. So all Indonesia. Aspar Lolo against Sabri Sabri. Yeah, Lolo on the left, Sabri on the right. This will be tight. Sabri came through with a 6.08. Lolo 6.09. Virtually identical times in the previous round. This for a place in the big final and a guaranteed silver medal at least. Sabri just twitched there, but it wasn't a false start. Lolo's got the real speed through the middle section though, and takes it in 5.84, 5.99 for Sabri. Both climbers under 6.
Just incredible run for both athletes. I've seen these guys practice in videos online. They're pretty much identical. Both have just been so explosive so far this competition. Both had absolutely perfect runs. Lolo was just a tiny bit quicker and was able to take home the win and move on to the big final. As you can see here, both athletes just ecstatic about their performances. Even though Sabri didn't quite make it through to the big final, he knows he had an absolutely flawless run, and that'll be a really good confidence booster going for him into the small final.
And 5.84 as well. Fast time from Lolo.
Yeah, first time under 6 seconds this entire competition.
Yeah, and both of them managed it. So now it's Subianto Rindi, Alexander Shikov. Shikov just takes an extra second to compose himself before making his way out. Rindi looks like he's enjoying every second of this. Why not? Semi-final World Cup.
So you can see them placing their starting butters. And also another thing to note is that the way that the athletes are clipped in differs from each competitor as well. So you see Shikov has it straight up the middle, whereas Rindi, well, he's actually going to be in the middle too, but some athletes actually put it over the right or left shoulder. Just like a little bit more comfort when they're climbing.
Rindi got a very quick start, and it was an illegal start. I've got to say, it was another one that even with the naked eye looked fast. He kicks the wall, he'll be kicking himself. Big mistake at this stage in the semi-final. And you could see that one with the naked eye. Clear false start. Mind you, we said that earlier on in the very first race of the day and were proved wrong, but that's a pretty big one. Yeah, his foot was pretty much level with his next foot by the time the beep actually went.
Yeah, well, again, with the new timing system where you're actually able to hear the countdown clock going before you go, it's definitely a lot easier to try and jump the gun, but as you can see here, even just a little bit too fast can actually come back and result in a false start. So definitely unfortunate we won't be seeing him in the final, but it'll be cool to see how it progresses throughout the competition.
These are replays, by the way. This was Anouk Joubert earlier on, the dead heat, 7.81. Yeah, these are still replays. The Chinese TV giving us our pictures, just showing us Yulia Kaplina there.
Another tidbit that you wouldn't necessarily know just from watching the live stream is you can see the new autoplay system. You can see the tension remains virtually taut throughout each of the competitors' races. That's because the autoplays are able to take in quite the slack quite quickly, which is actually great because it's now automated. There's no more errors with belayers. It's completely standardized across the world, which is nice. But one of the things that non-climbers have actually asked me quite a few times is, oh, isn't the auto belay pulling you upwards? Like, doesn't that help a lot? And it actually doesn't help nearly as much as you'd expect. There's a standardized force that it actually pulls with. I'm not sure what that number is off the top of my head, but if you go to perfectdescent.com, you can actually find out exactly their details and specs. That's the company that does all the autoplay certification throughout the world, and these are the autoplays we're using here. And it doesn't pull you up nearly as much as you'd think, and it's only just a little bit of extra tension going through the autoplay from your belay harness all the way up to the top of the wall. And so it's actually quite comfortable climbing with the autoplay system as an athlete. It doesn't really get in your way that much. It keeps the tension constant. It's not like you have to worry about whether the belayer you have is going to like not take in slack or actually take in too much slack, has happened to me in the past. So the fact that you know everything there is to know about the set amount of things that are going to be on the speed wall before you even climb, it allows for you as an athlete to go in there and only worry about your performance, which is quite nice.
When we're talking about marginal gains, tiny differences in times, you said that the belay device pulls ever so slightly on you. Do you think we're talking about enough to make a 100th of a second difference, a difference that we would see on the clock?
So if you were to compare that to if someone was not using on a belay at all and just like free soloing it, I suppose, yeah, it could make a 100th or 200th of a second difference. But it wouldn't be a massive amount. It would be very, very slight, especially if you're doing it in something like competition. But of course, we have to have absolutely 100% safety. So the fact that it pulls you up a tiny bit, it's not that much, and it's standardized for all the athletes. So no one athlete has an advantage.
So Raheu here against Ivanova. This is a small final for the bronze medal. And it's a false start from Raheu. She false started twice today, got away with the first one, doesn't get away with the second. It is a false start. She's disappointed. That was a big opportunity.
Kind of hard to tell exactly how much she false started by, but it was enough for the sensors to register. So Ivanova comes away with the bronze medal here. You can tell she's really pleased with that result.
Yeah, at times for the other speed climbers in the women's competition this year, it must have felt like they're competing for the bronze medal. Joubert and Kaplina just out on their own, but Ivanova takes it this week, and it's Raheu, as I said, second time she's false started. She got away with the first one because her competitor also false started, but doesn't get away with it in the small final. Takes fourth place. Indonesia will not get a women's medal. They will get a men's medal. What colour will it be? What colour will they be? They're going to get two. Sabri against Sufrianti Rindi. It's Sabri on the left, Rindi on the right.
Watch for his pullback here.
And it's another false start. Another false start. Sabri, you called it. Look at him pull back just to give himself that explosiveness, but he gave himself too much.
Yeah, curse of the commentator right there. Yeah, we know that he's been pulling back really hard before he begins, but this time it was just a tiny bit too soon. You saw him pull back, and then right before the third beep sounded, he was away. So definitely had a really good competition. Can't be too disappointed with coming in fourth, and definitely really excited that we have an Indonesian athlete on the podium. We're about to have two, so see what color the other one will be.
In the meantime, it is the big final. Two of climbing's biggest rivals, Anouk Joubert and Julia Kaplina.
You can see that they're both absolutely focused and dialed in. They know this is the big race, and couldn't be more tight race among two competitors.
Joubert just rehearsing that start, that launch, explosiveness. Kaplina didn't seem to have much of a practice start, knows what she needs to do. The overall standings so tight between these two. It's going to go down to the wire in the next event. One of them will be in the driving seat. Quick start from both. It looked to me as if Kaplina got the slightly better start, but it's Jobert who's now got the lead, and I think we'll hang on to it. Is it 4 in a row? It's not. Kaplina takes it at the buzzer, 7.66. Jobert was going for 4 World Cups in a row, and she is denied at the buzzer. Kaplina looked to me as if she was behind almost to the end there.
Wow, that was an incredible come from behind from Kaplina. She knew she was behind a tiny bit, and she really had to power through this last section. And as you can see here, at the very end, she actually was able to hit the buzzer right before Jobert.
It looked to me as if she just fired from slightly lower down on the very last move.
Yeah, it could have been. Again, we're talking about how many millimeters are you willing to bet on, where you can hit the finish, but know that you actually registered a time.
So it's Yulia Kaplina who takes it. First place for her. Anouk Jobert, her great rival, takes second. And now just a small matter of deciding the gold medal in the men's competition. It's Alexander Shikov on the right, Aspar Lolo on the left.
Yeah, this will be a really exciting race to watch. Jalolo capable of running really fast times in the high fives in this competition. Shikov equally is capable, but we haven't seen quite that speed from him so far, and he knows he'll have to come through really big in this race.
Well, we've seen a false start in the left-hand lane at both the small finals. Clean, big final in the women's. The last thing we want here is another false start. Nice clean race to finish it off. Would be nice, if you don't mind, chaps. Jalolo on the left, Shikov on the right. Shikov with the different coloured shoes, as you pointed out earlier. Ditto Jalolo. Both athletes set, ready to go. You'll hear the beeps. 1, 2, 3. They are away cleanly, and Shikov absolutely flying, but made a big stumble in the middle. This is going to be tight.
Oh!
And it is Shikov who takes it by 100th of a second. 6.32. Wins it by 100th of a second.
Wow. That was incredible. Both athletes had very small slips. You can see right there, Jalolo just missed that first foothold, but as you see at the very end, almost reined it in. It came down to 1/100th of a second. One of the closest finals we've seen so far this season.
Amazing final. Big show of emotion there from Shikov. 6.32 wins it to 6.33. Well, Josh, what a race to finish it on. 100th of a second. Just goes to show the whole broadcast we were talking about the minute differences in speed climbing, and there it is.
Absolutely. That was such an incredible final race to watch with both the men's and women's. So close for both of them, and we just got to see some incredible speed climbing from all the athletes here today.
Well, the speed climbing athletes will be back in action next week in Xiamen, but in the meantime, we've got the lead climbing final for you this evening. That's at 6:50 p.m. Wujiang time. Thank you very much for watching.